You know what? I think I can tie it quite nicely into what we're talking about, which is it's a shame that in the final years of his career, he wasn't in 1995's Mortal Kombat as Rayden.
And you know who else is Rayden?
Oh!
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Pixelated. My name is Kevin. With me today is James HotCyder. He is here filling in for Phil, who is currently in South Dakota for a work trip.
Wow.
Yeah, he is in South Dakota. Are there things in South Dakota? I don't know. It's a state, I know. It's big, land-wise, not population-wise.
Fair enough. And as we all know, land don't vote. So.
Land does not vote. Despite what right-wing electoral maps would tell you, land does not vote. But today we're talking about 1995's Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Which is, I watched it this morning better than I remembered.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go quickly into reviews, yeah, that is also my main takeaway from watching this film, which beforehand I don't think I had ever seen all the way through. I think I had seen it in bits and spits on television, but actually sitting down and watching it all the way through, I thought to myself, you know what? This film is, if you looked up the word fine in the dictionary, you would see a copy of 1995 Paul Anderson's Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, so the movie was directed by Paul Not Yet W.S. Anderson.
Mm-hmm. I believe, I'm not sure if this predates stuff like Hard 8 or whatever. I don't know who gets to claim being the first Paul Anderson to make films, but no, this isn't the There Will Be Blood and Boogie Nights Paul Anderson. This is the Resident Evil Afterlife, Resident Evil Annihilation, Resident Evil Final Chapter Paul Anderson, and his first Hollywood film as well.
Right, it's his second movie overall.
Yes.
After a British crime drama called Shopping, which I was like, wait a minute, that's where the producer, this guy, Lawrence Kasanoff, gets the rights from Midway to make a Mortal Kombat movie. He's like, this is gonna go big, and he's like, who am I gonna get to direct it? I guess he saw Shopping and is like, that guy. Shopping is a Jude Law movie.
It's Jude Law and Sean Bean's first proper big screen appearance, and it was a film that did, it's a micro budget indie, but it did do decently well.
Right.
To the extent of, according to Paul W.S. Anderson, in interviews he said, if it wasn't for Shopping, we wouldn't have Train Spotting or Shallow Grave.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, he reckons that Film 4, who were the company that funded Shopping, only took a chance on those films because of the success of the film that he had made. So I guess that's his other claim to fame, other than being the director of Mortal Kombat 1995.
Well, I would say his best work and only real work outside of video game adaptation, aside from Shopping, is going to be Event Horizon.
That's true, yeah. A film that I have only seen in business bits. I only know it for the meme of, what's the name of the Australian guy who's in Jurassic Park? Sam Neill.
Oh, Sam Neill.
Sam Neill, a man who genetically cannot scream, but yet is in a horror film, and they ask him to do it, and he makes the strangest sound you'll ever hear.
Is he not able to scream?
So there's a shot where he's having a nightmare, because obviously Event Horizon is they all start hallucinating on a scary spaceship. And he sees his wife, his dead wife, whose eyes have been gouged out, and she's like, "Join me in hell." And they cut to him, and he goes, "Oh." And there was a good meme for a while of me and my friends used to shoot each other just the audio clip of Sam Neill trying
to scream and not being able to do it. Yeah. So one of the interesting things about Shopping, by the way, is that it was British movie. So that comes out 94, I want to say.
Yeah.
Shopping doesn't get released in the States until 1996.
After
Mortal Kombat is already a hit. So Yeah.
From what I understand, MK was in development for a while, because I think the thing was as well is that Anderson hopped at it as well, because there's like an interview with him where he says that he's from Newcastle, like a proper northern town, like in the UK, and he had to move to London to shoot this film, and he just didn't get on with anyone. So what he used to do in his spare time was play Mega Drive, and one of the games that he liked the most was 92's original Mortal Kombat. So they come calling and they say, "Hey, we want to do this game adaptation," awesome. And he's like completely locked into the source material. He's like, "I know what I want to do with this," and I think as well. Great. Not that we haven't totally gotten to the film yet, but a thing that I was kind of surprised by rewatching it was I forgot it was New Line. And I know that like production companies don't always factor in too much, but I feel like this is an interesting middle ground between where they started, which was obviously the Freddy movies, so like, you know, gore effects and stuff like that, and then where they went, which was Lord of the Rings. Because this has like a lot of kind of like grand fantasy island, you know, kind of miniatures and stuff elements in it, but with this kind of almost gnarly gore aspect to it, which comes from Mortal Kombat. Yeah. Not that they do a lot of gore in this film because it was a PG-13. But...
Right. Yeah. And that was one of the things I read is that they basically spent a lot of time working with the MPAA trying to figure out how far they could go as a PG-13 film, and it was like, you can't show human death on screen, was apparently the quote they got back, so they're like, so we can show non-human deaths as much as we want.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, that's fine.
Sure, you've solved our magic riddle, so we will let you get away with this kind of
the magic riddle.
Yeah, you figured out our language, so we'll let you get away with this kind of a conceit of gore, I guess.
Yeah,
PG-13.
It's such a shame that New Line is not. It's Warner
Brothers now.
Yeah, they got absorbed into Warner Brothers, and they're not their own thing anymore. I mean, obviously, it's basically a lot of Hollywood's current issues are that, you know, the mid-level, the mid-level distributor gets sucked into, or studio gets sucked into the bigger studio, and you know, we kind of lose a little bit of variety in the industry, and it's a shame because I know New Line was always a little bit off kilter in terms of what they did, you know.
And that was kind of where we got like a lot of like almost a lot. It's funny. It's almost a bit like how Roger Corman gave a lot of people their starts, like making micro budget films for him. New Line gave like a lot of like sort of celebrated directors now, like kind of again Peter Jackson got his start at New Line, which is why they eventually did Lord of the Rings, because he had like a really good experience working with the guy who was the head of New Line. He was a guy called Michael Luca, who literally got his start like writing and like working on the Freddy movies because he just loved horror. So, and you do feel that in Mortal Kombat in a nice way. It's got its bona fides, is what I will say. Which is kind of what helped me enjoy it. The other thing that helped me enjoy it is that it's a nice tight watch. It is a short film.
Tight watch. We don't get that anymore. Old film studio makes movie like they used to.
Absolutely.
to borrow a Northern Lion quote, something he says a lot. What's also interesting was the casting in this movie. So Cameron Diaz was supposed to be Sonya Blade, had to drop out due to a wrist injury, I believe. So just couldn't do it, and we ended up getting was it Bridgette Wilson? Takes over as Sonya Blade. There were a few people that were considered for Rayden, including Sean Connery, and Sean Connery.
Funnily enough, considering they went with it. They
went with
his
Highlander co-star, Christopher Lambert, who is more composed as an actor in this than he is at any point in Highlander.
He is completely locked in for playing a god of lightning from another world than he is playing his accent in this is impeccable versus in Highlander where he goes, I'm Kevin MacLeod, I'm from Scotland. It's like, are you sure?
Are you sure you're from
Scotland, Tennessee?
Where
Scotland,
are you?
Paris? I'm not quite
That's the thing is, I don't know. Christopher Lambert's one of those guys where he speaks and you're like, no, I'm not picking up anything from anywhere.
You're from anywhere.
He's like Tommy Wiseau, where it's like,
oh yeah,
he's got a Tommy Wiseau kind of vibe going, where it's obviously not the same accent, but it's also the same in that it's just a mutant accent that a little bit here, a little bit there, a weird like gruff voice, and then Christopher Lambert. They got Robin Shou plays Lui Kang, and Shou hasn't done a ton of stuff over the years.
No, it's mostly a lot of stunt guys, which I think is not a bad idea considering the film that they're making, which is essentially, hey, if you're going to make a cheap film and you don't want to do a horror film, what's the best plot you can go for? Tournament movie, because it has exactly the same thing of a slasher, which is you have really strong personalities and characters that you can establish in about 5 seconds, mostly just through looking at them. And then you go, hey, do you want to see a bunch of scenes where we put them in interesting sets and see them fight each other? Yes, I would like to see that. Great. Here's your ticket for 1995's Mortal Kombat.
He was, Robin Shou was also in the Dead or Alive movie.
Interesting.
He was in the Street Fighter Chun-Li movie that came out in 2009. And he was in 3 of the 4 Death Race pre-sequel reboots.
The Jason Statham one.
Yes,
Jason Statham's in one of them.
In the first one, and then the other 2 are Stathamless. So Death Race is a prequel to the Death Race 2000 movie from the 1970s, which starring Sylvester Stallone, I want to say.
I believe so. Well, I think that's a Corman, funnily enough, and I think it is like an early Stallone of just like, hey, you seem like you're gonna have a big career. Play this bit part in.
Yeah.
Because it's Stallone's in it, but I think the
it's David Carradine. David Carradine, Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. That's right, David Carradine. Rest in peace, you autoerotic asphyxiation.
You funny guy.
Enjoyer.
Rest in peace,
you funny guy.
I feel like if Carradine was maybe... Because Rayden seems like the sort of character that like a Carradine could have played of like an
That could have been a Carradine, yeah.
Because like when he did Kung Fu, he was kind of getting by like ambiguous Asian martial arts master kind of thing. It's like, hey, we have the perfect role for you in Rayden from Mortal Kombat.
Right, and then in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which we're not getting into, but Rayden is recast by to be James Remar, who is mostly known at this point for being Dexter's dad on Dexter. James Remar's in Megalopolis. Look at that.
Wow, Megalopolis coming out. Maybe by the time this episode is out, I don't know. But please look forward to
theaters near you.
Yeah, look forward to Francis Ford Coppola kissing everyone on set, even though they're saying, please stop kissing people on set.
Please stop kissing people on set. Francis is just like, it's my last movie. I'm not going to stop kissing people on set.
I did this when I made The Godfather. Why is this wrong now? Why can't I kiss everyone I see? And it's like, oh well, things have changed, Francis.
Oh, Frankie, you've been in the wine business for too long.
Yeah. I like to imagine that he was there, like he was the one stamping the grapes himself. Like, have you ever seen that like news clip of the news anchor doing it and then she falls over and
Joe absolutely eats it right out of the No, I imagine that was his life for like a good 30 years before he's like, I'm selling the winery. I'm making a movie, and it's gonna look like an Ayn Rand book adaptation on steroids.
Well, it's gonna look like Spy Kids, despite the fact that I have this money, but I really like the aesthetic of Spy Kids, so I'm gonna kind of lean on that.
Oh gosh! So the film was shot in Thailand. $20 million.
It sure was. Yeah,
it's very much Thailand.
It is. I will say Thailand is doing a lot of heavy lifting in this film because
at one point I'm like, they get on a boat and they go to another part of Thailand.
Oh yeah. And there's just bits where they're fighting in this natural splendor, and I'm just kind of like, man, yeah, Thailand is just kind of like. You could just set video game films in Thailand because it literally looks like the background to. You could have multiple backgrounds to fighting games in Thailand.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, they could shoot a Far Cry movie here.
I mean, one of the Far Cry games is literally set there because Far Cry 3 is. It's funny I mentioned this on an episode of Bullet Time, but obviously the second game's based on Heart of Darkness. But the third one's kind of based on. Have you ever read or seen the film The Beach, Alex Garland? And,
yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of a riff on that. The Beach is literally backpacker goes to Thailand, finds this magical island where all they do is smoke weed all day and loses his mind, basically. And Far Cry 3.
Yeah. So, by the way,
yes,
Far Cry has been adapted into a movie. Totally forgot about that.
Oh yeah,
starring Till Schweiger. It's an Uwe Boll, money laundering
I was going to say, is it an Uwe Boll?
Yes.
Okay, because when you said the lead character is the most German name I've ever heard, I was like,
Till Schweiger, who I think was in Inglourious Bastards as the German, like the German in the group who was like the traitor to the Nazis. He joins up with the bastards. Yeah.
Do you think Tarantino saw Far Cry and he was like, I need that guy in my next film.
I need this man.
In fact, he made a World War II movie so he could put German actors in it, so he could have Schreiber.
He could have Till Schweiger, who I mean, the Far Cry movie came out before Inglourious Bastards, so
it could happen. He's got a terrible taste in films, Tarantino. So it's not impossible.
It is produced for $20 million, ends up making $122 million back at the box office, and was released on August 18th, 1995. Huge success. But yeah, let's go ahead and put the body in the marsh, and let's get through this plot. All right.
When I tell you to dump a body in the marsh, you dump them in the marsh.
The movie starts with the theme that we all know and love, the Mortal Kombat opening title card. Yeah.
Mortal Kombat Techno Syndrome by the Immortals, who I found out through doing research, because I was like, I've never heard of this group before. It's because they were literally put together to do that. So the album predates the film. They had done it as promotional material for Mortal Kombat 2. But it was by two Belgian house DJs who created initially the groundbreaking group Lords of Acid, who I was like, I recognize that name. And these were guys who had pioneered a lot of techno music. A lot of their music was banned because their entire thing was, well, we want this to be like heavy metal, so it's going to be hard as fuck, but it's also just going to have a lot of porn sound effects over it. It's like, cool. And everyone at Midway was like, these guys are sick. Rather than doing porn sound effects, here's all the sound effects from Mortal Kombat, including
the sound font from the game.
Yeah, including the shouting Mortal Kombat, which is from the Mortal Monday advert, which is what they used to advertise either the first or second game. So,
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's all connects.
Test your might.
So
we get the opening title card. We cut to two men fighting on top of what looks like someplace in Thailand.
Mountain.
And there's a guy in a black coat, and he kills a guy in a red gi. And the guy in the black coat, it's Shang Sung, and he says, "Your soul is mine." And his face turns into a skull face, and we get a little jump scare. And it's actually a nightmare.
Yes, it's Lui Kang having a nightmare.
Yeah, it's Liu Kang having a nightmare, and we wake up in his apartment, and his apartment is green, which I love as a lighting choice, that his apartment is just bright green. Why? Don't know. There's no motivation for the light, and I'm for it.
He lives in the sewer. He has green light all over the place. I mean, I guess in the game he's like the red guy. Well, he has red shorts, doesn't he, and a red bandana. So.
Yeah, he does. Or he's, I think, red shorts or black pants with a red bandana or something like that.
So he just wants to contrast any environment he's in. Interesting thing I thought as well was that in his backstory, and I don't know if this is in the game, I did do a bit of nerding in this because I'm quite a fan of. I know tiny bits of Mortal Kombat lore, which is probably the most unbelievable thing about me, but it's because I like Mortal Kombat 9, which was like a remake of the first three, but like a big film, like this was. But
sure.
In the plot of this film, he is a Hong Kong expat who moves over to the States and then comes back, and I was kind of like, are they doing a riff on the fact that Lui Kang is obviously based on Bruce Lee? Because that's kind of his backstory with that as well. And it just reminds me of the fact that every fighting game has a Bruce Lee analog in it, and Lui Kang is the one in Mortal Kombat. So.
And in another coincidence, I forgot to mention that before Robin Shou was cast, the tentative person to play Liu Kang was going to be Brandon Lee, the son of Bruce Lee. Yeah. And then Brandon Lee died on the set of The Crow.
Yes.
So, God, what a alternate timeline of seeing Brandon Lee's like career play out. Brandon Lee and River Phoenix.
Do you think River Phoenix would be doing the films that like his brothers? Do you think he would be in Joker Foiler do?
Yeah, I feel like we would have. I don't know. I don't think. I think he would not be doing the same films as Joaquin ends up doing, because Joaquin is like very unconventional looking, so he's always had to play the kind of offbeat guy. Like he's good looking, but also just has that vibe. Whereas River Phoenix was like the hot dude, you know,
handsome guy. Yeah, he would have been doing like. He would have been doing kind of what Johnny Depp was doing up until. I mean, he probably would have been doing Johnny Depp's roles.
He just did literally in Johnny Depp's career in a similar way, which is, and then he died at Johnny Depp's club. So, see, what's the conspiracy there?
Welcome to the conspiracy point.
Oh no! So he wakes up and he shuffles over to his thing. He picks up a telegram from Western Union that
your brother's dead.
Your brother's dead. Come home, Grandpa. All right. I doubt it would have been in English, but we're not here for that. We're not here for. Accuracy.
Western Union translated it for him for like being like, we're not sending this letter of us in Chinese. Like that.
We're Western Union.
Yeah, we're the Western. We're not the United Union. We're the Western Union. Come the fuck on.
Get out of here. We cut to Sonya Blade and Jax and taking their operatives. They're in Hong Kong and they're there to take on Kano.
Yes, Kano, who is in this film not in the lore, but they updated the Mortal Kombat lore because of it, played by an Australian. And they liked this change so much that they decided, actually, Kano, who used to be Australian, a Japanese American, he's Australian now because that's more fun. So,
and this dude, like, is one of the best parts of the movie. He's having this a whale of time.
Yeah.
Playing Kano.
I like it too because it's like you're not quite, because obviously it begins with the brother having the fight with Shang Sung and it's like, stylized, but it is a dream sequence, and then like he's very grounded. The Sonya Blade stuff is like, here is a special forces agent, so it's like that's grounded enough. And then you see Kano with literally the metal petri dish on his face, and it's like, oh good, no, never mind, this is a more they know the tone of this film.
They know the tone. This guy has a fucking robot face. Are we going to explain it? No, we're not.
It also does my favorite thing because he's like a underworld business guy, and he obviously works out of a dance club. And despite the fact that they head in there with assault rifles and are like shooting glass or whatever, the people behind them are still dancing like they don't give a fuck.
No, they don't hear it over the metal.
It's like a John Wick thing. This happens every week, so they're just used to it.
We're in Hong Kong, baby. This is
normal.
This is normal. It's Hong Kong. It's a few years before the handover. We got
You got nothing but time and fun to be had. This is great.
Nothing but time and fun. So Kano is working for Shang Sung, and his only job is to lure Sonya Blade to the tournament.
And the way that he does that is by killing her previous partner, so she is out for revenge. So again, we have two of the simplest character setups so far, which is your brother's been killed, come back home, and that'll be the setup for I want revenge against Shang Sung. Sonya Blade, I want revenge against Kano, and to find out why he killed my partner, which will lead us to Shang Sung. Which then leads us to our third main character of the film, who has a slightly less straightforward reason for entering. Well, actually, no, it is kind of straightforward for why he enters the tournament. I do like the fact that it does do the fake out thing of you see two like action set pieces, which they look hokey, but that isn't the reality of this film. And then you see another hokey action set piece, but then they say, "Oh no, that actually was a fake hokey action set piece."
Right. And what's funny is I noticed a clear difference between this set piece coming up where Johnny Cage he's walking into a warehouse and he's fighting all these dudes, and you can tell like this looks a little fake. And
it's a bit stiff, yeah.
They change the angles just enough so that you can see that the punches aren't really landing.
Yeah.
And it's a movie set. And then Johnny is upset at the fight scene. He gets too sloppy and he wants acting. So he runs off set.
Fun fact about that. So the director who's like Johnny, calm down kind of thing, that was originally going to be, so I don't know if you noticed, but the director is like dressed up to look like Spielberg. The original plan was that was going to be a cameo by Steven Spielberg.
That's amazing.
Because as I bring up all the time, Spielberg is a massive video game fan. And when I say that, I don't mean like, I like Pac-Man back in the 70s. No, like he is kept like up to date with stuff. And during the 90s, he was a massive Mortal Kombat fan. I think he liked the technology. I think he liked the ideas of it. But he was like, I really want to be in the Mortal Kombat movie. But time never worked out. So instead, the actor that they hired, they just dressed him up to look like
dressed
Steven
him
Spielberg.
like the way Steven Spielberg dresses on set. The fit like that exact
with the black
look.
baseball cap and the kind of the brown Han Solo jacket over a white shirt kind of thing. Yeah.
Fun fact about Steven Spielberg, he also worked with LucasArts to develop a game called The Dig. It was a point-and-click adventure game. Famously, had a terrible production cycle. But yeah, it's it came out eventually, and it was an interesting little game. I remember playing it way back. It was like right around this time. It's like 1994, 1995.
It's match game facts. My favorite thing I always like telling people is that if it wasn't for Steven Spielberg, we wouldn't have Call of Duty, because
that's true.
He and his son, when he was making Saving Private Ryan during downtime, they would play GoldenEye on the N64, and they basically said, "Oh, his generation, this is how they're going to get war stories. So how do we kind of combine these two things together?" He had founded DreamWorks, which had a game element soon, which is how we got like the bizarre Jurassic Park Trespasser game. But the one successful game they did make was the first Medal of Honor for EA. And through Medal of Honor, we get all those development houses where one of them had done Allied Assault, a game so good that Activision literally bought them and told them to make Call of Duty. And that's how we have that today.
That's pretty much how we get... Yeah, Medal of Honor really does kick everything off, kick that boom of military shooters off.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember playing the first Medal of Honor and just thinking about how I had never heard a game so dedicated to sound design, because you could hear they added in the bullets like whizzing by you and like impacting into the dirt around you. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. You never hear that with games at that. You always heard the gunshot, but you never heard anything else. And that was like the first real step into, oh yeah, there's two parts to this equation. Medal of Honor. Good stuff. Steven Spielberg, it would have been fun if he had actually made this appearance.
Sure.
But he didn't.
He didn't. And not only didn't he not turn up, but then the guy that Johnny Cage talks to has a bit of a Joel Silver look to him, but wasn't Joel Silver.
I know. I was like, this is a Joel Silver ass dude.
This is a big coke guy with a ponytail. Yeah. It's like Joel. No, Joel Silver. Dang it,
Master Boyd.
Yes, he gives Johnny Cage a magazine where they're all basically like Variety, whatever, is saying he doesn't do his own kung fu. He's a fake master.
He's a fraud and all that stuff.
Fraud. And he goes, "How do I prove that I'm not doing that?" And the Joe Silver guy says, "Why don't you enter this Mortal Kombat tournament to show that you're the best martial artist ever?" And as Johnny Cage walks away, thinking that's a good idea, the Joe Silver guy turned out to be Shang Sung all along.
In disguise. Dun, dun, dun.
Because he has the special power of doing a pretty cheap digital morph between actors.
Yes, they don't go into it, but I have a feeling, is it like anybody whose soul he's taken, he can do a shapeshift into. So we can just assume that the real Master Boyd is dead somewhere.
Yeah, Joe Silver died.
Joe Silver died, and this is based on this stuff where this Johnny Cage issue where he's like he wants to prove himself is actually based on Jean-Claude Van Damme,
who was obviously the original inspiration for.
Yeah, in the early '90s, there was a big like Jean-Claude Van Damme he's just a dancer. He doesn't do any of this. He doesn't know anything. That's a big inspiration for it. So it's Shang Tsung, and now we cut to Lui Kang. He is back home in Hong Kong, Thailand.
Yes. So he goes to meet with the Shaolin monks. So it turns out that his granddad is like the head of the Shaolin monks, and he goes to Shaolin. He goes to Shaolin. He goes to the temples to hang out with his family, and they're like, "Look, your brother died fighting Shang Tsung." Over, and I was actually, so here's the thing, so I watched the film once and I was like, that was entertaining enough, and then I went, you know what, I gotta make notes, so I'm gonna quickly skip through it and like kind of remind myself of it. I like the fact that they just deliver the plot in the simplest way possible in this film. He goes to Shaolin and they go, right, here's the facts. Your brother died fighting Shang Tsung. Why was he fighting Shang Tsung? Because there's a thing called the Mortal Kombat Tournament. What's it about? Well, you see, there's two worlds. There's Earthrealm, where we live, and Outrealm, which is where all the demons and monsters live. Now, we have this tournament that basically is kind of like it stops wars from happening, essentially.
It's like it's kind of like it's kind of like the same concept behind The Purge, right? Where one night a year all crime is legal.
So they send their representatives in. And that's the nice thing as well, is that because you go, oh, well, there's going to be the scene where the three characters go, well, why are we here? This is all a bit random. But no, very quickly up front they say, now here's the thing, there's always three representatives from Earthrealm, and they could be from like any background, but it's mostly the best martial artists, which turns out to be a movie guy, a policewoman, and you, basically, because your brother's dead. So
you're the dude.
We're going to give you a twofer. One, you get to get revenge against Shang Tsung, which is what you want, and you get to protect Earthrealm, which is good because they've just won the last 9 out of 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments. So if they win
10 in a row,
yeah,
bad shit's gonna happen. That punch card, they're gonna get that free hoagie.
Oh god, I was thinking about it. It's like it's the world's worst version of like, best 2 out of 3, kind of like they can't like. It's like, when you're doing poker and it's just like, no, I'll throw my watch in, no, let me throw my card in. No,
double or nothing.
Just deal me back in, kind of. So Earthrealm kept asking to be dealt back in. So it's now, if they win the 10th tournament, though, bad news. Shao Kahn, who's a guy that they mentioned a couple of times, but you don't really see him. But Shao Kahn's going to bring his army over and he's going
to come in and he's going to wreck some shit. There's a weird cut in here where Lui Kang is talking about, he's like, tournament couldn't be real, can't be that important. He's like, they're talking about why he left for America. But then we cut to, now he's talking and arguing in front of a group of monks that he needs to represent the temple at the tournament. And it's like, I feel like, maybe not a deleted scene, but it's like there was a reaction shot missing somewhere or something. Because
they streamlined it just a little bit too much that you're missing a tiny bit of context.
Paul was in that editing room hanging over the editor's shoulder and be like, no, sand the edges off more. And it's like, the audience has the exposition they need. Let's go. Next scene.
This is, if Paul Thomas Anderson directed this, you would have like an hour with a Shaolin. Like, they'd just be having a pool party and taking drugs and talking about like how good the 70s was. and you'd be like, "This is good. This is a hangout. Mortal Kombat's a great hangout movie." Paul Thomas Anderson had directed it.
Yeah. What's his name would have played Johnny Cage?
PSH. Philip
Seymour Hoffman would have played Johnny Cage.
These were $500 sunglasses, asshole.
Just him saying, like doing the shut up scene.
Oh yeah, doing that to Goro. Shut up.
To Goro.
Shut up. Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. There's a bit where like Sonya Blade notices him, and he's been like watching somebody. He's like, "I'm such a fuck up. I fucked up. I'm sorry." like the big guy in Boogie Nights, where he's just like acting hard.
Yeah, when
we really missed it. Different
just
timeline.
merging the Paul Anderson like
the Paul Anderson
timeline.
They should work together. That'd be good.
Directed by Paul's Anderson.
By Paul Anderson and Wes Anderson. Yeah, because it's Paul W.S. Anderson and then there's Wes Anderson. So they should do the amazing Andersons.
You get the PT, the WS, and the Wes, and the
Wes.
We got to get all of them. A shady figure who sounds like Christopher Lambert shows up. Oh shit, It's Christopher Lambert. Lord Rayden says Lui Kang is running away from his destiny, and Lui Kang thinks Rayden is just a beggar who wants to show him he can fight. And then Rayden's like, I got electric powers. And then this interaction where Liu Kang's like, "Why did you let Chen die?" His brother, and Rayden's like, "Why did you?" And it's like, Rayden, you're the fucking electric man who can be anywhere at any time, and he was in Hollywood.
No, but that's why Rayden, that's why he's a god, because like his response to everyone is just like, "No, you,
and no, he can hit that Uno reverse at any time.
Yeah, you can hit the Uno reverse on any slot.
That's real godhood right there. Anyway, Liu Kang's gonna go to the tournament and get his revenge.
Then they all go to Hong Kong. They all congregate in the same place, all three of them. Johnny Cage has all of his suitcases. Liu Kang, I for some reason, like Johnny Cage is like, "Hey, can you help me out with my suitcases?" And Liu Kang just throws them in the water. Cool interaction, guys.
His Louis Vuitton suitcases. They're they're like classic Louis Vuitton suitcases. They're like the brown with the you can see the gold LV like pattern on them. And Jax and Sonya are watching the ship arrive, and it's like this creepy looking,
it's like a dragon pirate ship. It's like a proper old fashioned, like kind of like Chinese travel ship. Is cool.
And Kano is just like waiting in the shadows, waiting until like Sonya sees him go on the ship so that she'll follow, and she does. So they're on the ship now. Johnny meets Sonya Blade on the ship, and she's like takes him in a headlock, and she's like, "Where's Kano?" And she has terrible trigger discipline here. She has like her finger on the trigger.
On the trigger. Yeah.
She's like putting the gun to.
Great martial artist, terrible markswoman.
Yeah, just like you gotta be careful with the gun there. We get Liu Kang making fun of Johnny some more, and we follow Sonya below deck where she meets Shang Sung, who welcomes her aboard. And it's like Shang Sung is very clear about she needs to be here. This is a question that the movie will never really answer as to why.
To an extent. No, because that was the thing. I felt they didn't, but up until Lambert, it's either in that scene because he appears, or it's the scene where he saves them on the island where they're about to, because they fight a bunch of guys to techno, and then more guys turn up, but then so does Rayden. And he basically says, oh, yeah, that was the thing. Like, Lambert's voice in this, he sounds like he's doing a Peter Lorre impression. So he's just kind of like, I brought you guys together because you're the chosen warriors of Earth
You're
Realm.
The chosen warriors.
You're the chosen warriors.
Earth Realm needs you.
Yeah. So they do explain this. Basically, it's just like, hey, you won the genetic, you won the cosmic lottery. You are the three guys that needs a representative in Mortal Kombat. It's like, fair enough.
Yeah. By the way, MVP of these scenes, fog machine. The fog machine is really the...
Yeah, Dry Ice is really putting in the...
in the work.
Yeah, Dry Ice really got its, its SAG membership that year.
We're on a boat? Yeah, so of course, there's fog all over. We don't need any...
It's like a ghost ship, so of course there's just white ice everywhere.
We don't need any water. We don't need to show the boat floating on water.
Yeah, no, it's floating on a cloud. Don't worry about it.
Shang Sung introduces her to Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and Johnny and Lui Kang come down and back her up, and there's just so much fog there. Sonya draws her gun on Sub-Zero, who then breaks it with an ice touch.
Yes,
and Scorpion's hand freezes the gun. Scorpion's hand opens up to reveal. So the creative choice is to turn like his chain thing. It's like one of those little like dinosaur head grabber toys.
Yeah, it is. It's a sock puppet. It's an evil sock puppet.
It's a sock puppet. Or alternatively, Crow from Mystery Science Theater 3000. Pops out of his head.
Yeah, Crow comes out of his hand and starts cracking wise.
And then Rayden or Rayden pronunciation differs depending on what era
what character
you're in.
is saying it pretty
what
much.
What character is saying it shows up and shocks both of them into a wall, and he tells Shang Sung that fighting before the tournament is forbidden. Yes. And then he asks his fighters to follow him.
It's good. It's got the John Wick thing of when everybody said, oh, John Wick is good because, it's non-stop action, but then they have the bit where they go to the Continental and they're not allowed to fight anyone. This film has that entirely blocked in of, hey, we got to do it by the rules, okay? Because that, ultimately, not to spoil this film, that I don't know if anyone's going to watch it, but ultimately what undoes Shang Sung is that he has to follow the rules.
He has to follow the rules. The rules are pretty straightforward, and you got to follow them or else it doesn't work. And that the other thing is, like, when you realize that the first 40 minutes of this movie are just like, we are just packing all the fucking exposition in there.
Yeah,
it's all
Let's
plots.
get this out of the way because
we're going to put all this plot, and then we're going to do fights.
Fights all the way through from there. Because literally the moment they get off the boat, they get to Thailand, it turns into visual effects and no plot and all fight scenes.
All fights, no plot.
You see the boat go through like a kind of like two cliffs facing each other, and there's like a river running through it, and there's like a big statue there. Reminded me a bit of the shot from either Fellowship or Two Towers, where there's the similar thing of like the giant.
Right.
And again, it's New Line, so I'm kind of thinking is like, oh, are they thinking, is this a dry run to see how much they can get away with when Peter Jackson makes this?
Yeah, maybe. How long was Peter Jackson engaged with New Line about Lord of the Rings? Because I know Peter Jackson had not done Frighteners yet.
He hadn't done Frighteners, but he had written. He'd written one of the Freddy sequels. They didn't use the script, but he was mates with them at this point, and I think they had thrown money at Heavenly Creatures or something. But I think he had been talking about doing the what's it called? He'd been talking about doing the Lord of the Rings films since like the late night, like 97, 98. So a few years after this, I mean, probably would have been around the time of Annihilation.
Yeah, he probably would have started work on like some of the pre-work.
And I'm sure the feedback that they gave him was, we're good for sets, we're good for practical. If you're going to put your money somewhere, put it in the visual effects.
Put it in the visual effects, please.
Yeah, put it in the CG because they're not very good here.
Yeah. So, Rayden really does lay out the stakes very succinctly, as well as really makes that subtext text. He points out what the character growth needed for each of the characters to succeed.
I like that. I like the fact that this is Paul Anderson, W.S. Anderson is very much a kid of Star Wars. If he had probably seen that in the 70s, and that's inspired every film he's made since. Every character needs to have a flaw that they have to overcome. But this is just way simpler because literally a character is going to say, Your problem, Lui Kang, is that you feel guilty. Your problem, Sonya, is that you want revenge. And you, Johnny Cage, you think you're foolish. So you have to all overcome this. And it's like, I know what you have to overcome, Christopher Lambert. It's like, whatever that fucking voice is here, dude. But that's your page.
What? It's like, does Paul Anderson like? I just imagine that Paul Anderson was like, "Nah, I'm gonna let him roll with it." I'm not
Paul
give
Anderson
no
was like, "Look, I want you to base your character on this," and he probably handed him a tape, but he didn't realize that he had accidentally recorded over it with an old Bugs Bunny cartoon where he had met a mad scientist who was just doing the Peter Lorre impression.
He's like, yeah, I handed him this tape of some of Orson Welles' best parts. Yeah. But I guess I had taped over, some Peter Lorre stuff that Bugs Bunny was doing. I don't know.
Yeah, because Peter Lorre's in Maltese Falcon, but then what's the other one that he's in where he's like, at the beginning of the film, he's normal, but then at the end, he's like gone completely bonkers, and that's what every Peter Lorre impression is based on.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot. The Peter Lorre impression is actually the one that pops into my head the most is actually from a radio play that he did with. It was the Cask of Amontillado, where he's like, but Montrez or.
I got some lovely wine. Just go behind the wall.
Amontillado.
See that? You should have done that with Orson Welles, because Orson Welles loves a big bottle of wine.
He loves a big bottle of wine. Loves the big bottle.
I've seen him talk about the French champagne.
The French champagne, he would have been down for it. A world where Orson Welles is either Rayden or Shang Sung.
God, he could have been a good Shang Sung, but literally he's just never. He's just always sitting. But yeah, like imagine him saying flawless victory. I will say we were talking about the actors earlier. I don't know who the guy was that played Shang Sung, but I would say about I think most people are there for Lambert and for the stunts. The guy who plays Shang Sung, he is locked in. Whenever he was on screen,
locked in.
Yeah, I loved him. Whenever he was on screen, I just
what movie he's in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because it's like, because this is a kind of a stupid film in regards to like, not one, it's based on Mortal Kombat, but they wanted to do a lot to get all the Mortal Kombat stuff in it, which we'll talk about when we get to Scorpion. But every time there's a fight and a guy like gets defeated, they just cut to this Shang Tsung guy and he just goes, flawless victory. Like it's
what's amazing is he has, the guy has so many credits.
Oh, I can imagine he's been like in a million Hong Kong and American.
Yeah. In Mortal Kombat 11, he did the voice of
Shang Tsung. Cool.
He was in Kubo and the Two Strings, one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh, yeah, I looked this up. He was in the two biggest films that I knew of him that he was in he's in Licensed to Kill, so he probably would have just been like a heavy in one of those. And he was also in Memoirs of a Geisha. So good for him. Yeah. He was the guy who said flawless victory in Memoirs of the Geisha.
In Memoirs of the Geisha. And Walker, Texas Ranger, he was the guy who said fatality.
I'll take your soul, Norris.
But yeah, I mean, dude's been working. He starts out in Big Trouble in Little China in 1986 as an extra. Been working pretty consistently for, since then.
I'll say he's the best part in this. He is locked in great shape. I don't know if he's doing all his own stunts or whatever, but
most recent role was in Blue-Eyed Samurai, which is on Netflix.
An anime, I think.
Yeah, an anime on Netflix. Yep.
There we go.
There it is.
There we go. It is. That's the episode. That's
the episode. We're wrapping it up. Shang Tsung does some magic. We get a floating skull. We get snakes. We get more fog. And now they're in a different part of Thailand as the boat arrives, as we were saying earlier. We get a little bit of a funny bit of pratfall humor of Cage trying to get off the boat with all of his Louis Vuitton luggage. And he just he face plants into the water. That is commitment right there to the bit. Exactly. He doesn't stumble into the bit. Everybody's really locked in at this point.
Everyone is playing the classic archetypes. He's Michelangelo.
Yeah.
Sonya is Raph. She's the angry one. And then Lui Kang is, he's the protagonist of the film. Goes, is he the funniest one? No. Is he the smartest one? No. Is he the angriest one? No. So he has no traits to him. Oh, that must mean he's the lead of the film. He's the most milquetoast guy going.
He has no characteristics, so he is the lead.
Here you go, he's the lead. He's your audience surrogate. You can fill him in like a big jug.
Yeah. Sonya's radio isn't working, and her compass won't point north.
It's just spinning round and round.
It's just spinning around, and they all take a long walk up the stairs, and we get more
Which is
Johnny
a classic
Cage.
bit of visual effects where they do the zoom in where it's a normal pair of steps, and then as they pull out, they slowly replace it with a giant mat.
With the mat. Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
yeah, good matte painting work in this. I will say, a lot of the effects in this, almost all of the CG effects in this are god-awful. Yes. But there's a lot of good practical work that was done in this.
This is that crossover. This is the New Line thing of, because they did a lot of practicals for the Freddy's, and those are all good. Whenever they did early CG for the Freddy's, they looked bad. But but all they were kind of really waiting for was Jackson to be like, hey, look, I have put together a team in New Zealand that can do which I think was, funnily enough, you mentioned Frighteners. I think that was like Weta's first.
They did it. Yeah, that was what they cut their teeth on in order to do the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, all the practical stuff in this is good. And then you mentioned the CG, because literally they get up to the tippy top, and there's a bunch of really ugly statues there, one of which looks like Trogdor, which then comes to life, and it turns out that's Reptile. Everyone's favorite character.
It is the worst, like, Technicolor CG nightmare as he comes to life.
They're trying to do, like, the Predator effect of he's slightly because you can turn translucent like in the games.
Yeah,
but it looks so. This, and have you ever seen the Michael Jai White Spawn film?
Oh God, yeah. Oh, it's burned into my head.
The CG effects in both those films are like, they both to me are like, this was the last time CG looked bad in film, because then after that, you got like The Matrix. And,
they got serious about it, basically.
Yeah, they were like, oh guys, we figured it out. We found this. We found the luge that James Cameron has that we can make CG look
right. It's like guys, what was it? The Abyss was nearly 10 years ago. Why is it looking worse?
How does this look worse than The Abyss? Yeah, they had invented like a non-linear editor or like Nuke at this point. It was like, oh, compositing, we can just do compositing easily now. We all got Mac. We all have iMacs. We can just do this easily now.
Yeah. Right. So, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but every time Lui Kang, so we see the Reptile transition, it's because Shang Sung tells Reptile to keep an eye on Katana, who Lui Kang makes eyes with, and every time Lui Kang and Katana make eyes, we get the sexiest fucking pan flute. Like, just a little sexy pan flute just, like, rips right into that.
To the extent of even fucking Johnny Cage calls it out of, like, oh, when a man looks at a woman like that only means one thing. It's like, cool.
And we get an eye roll from Sonya Blade, and she's like, man, this is the peak
Ironically, though, because Katana is basically, because she is Shou, and again, this is all from the games, so she's Shao Kahn's daughter, and the thing is, she's almost a bit like Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy. Her dad is the big bad, but she's going to turn coat against him and help the good guys, because I don't know, she just likes Earthrealm for some reason.
She just doesn't like the things that the daddy is doing.
Yeah, but but you think that she's going to be like the damsel in distress character, but she's not. That ends up being Sonya Blade in a weird
I know.
way.
Strangely, Sonya Blade ends up as a damsel in distress. Spoilers for a few minutes from now.
Spoilers for 20 minutes from... Spoilers from 5 fight scenes from now, which will be 20 minutes long. Because, then they go to the Hogwarts banquet hall, was all I could think of when we got to this, where they decide to... If you didn't think that Sub-Zero and Scorpion were threats earlier, well, check this out, because... what are the guard guys just speaks up, and Shang Tsung is just like, Sub-Zero, can you, deal with him? Freezes him solid, crushes his head, And then Shang Sung says, "Flawless victory."
Flawless victory. I'm there for it. And they really just waste all that food.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like after that, nobody's eating it, which doesn't matter because then they somehow give all that food to Kano and Goro.
Yeah, Kano and Goro are having the best conversation. Kano is just talking to Goro while eating a chicken leg. Goro lays down some exposition about the Shou and the Outworld. And Kano's getting really uncomfortable with this whole thing. Goro spills the beverage all over Kano's lap. And then Shang Sung arrives to warn Goro that Lui Kang is here, and he is Kung Lao's descendant.
Yes.
And Kung Lao is one of the dudes that was like, really good. He was a really good Earth Realm fighter that probably could have won at some point.
Now, for people who haven't seen this film or have ever played a Mortal Kombat game before, you might be asking, well, what does Goro look like? Well, Goro is like a 9-foot guy with 4 arms. Now you're wondering, wow, how were they able to render this kind of character in a film in 1995? Well, good news is they did do it practically. But bad news is, and according to all the behind the scenes stuff, it was a massive pain in the ass.
Yeah, they could only do it for like a minute at a they could do it for like a minute at a time. It was a massive puppet animatronic thing. And the guy inside nearly died every time they did.
Yeah, he was like Kenny Baker inside of R2-D2. He kept dying of. Have you ever heard that story about Jack Nicholson in what's it called when he did Batman, where he was like, "I'll do the joke here. Yeah, let's go on with it." And it turned out like he's like one of the only people on Earth who is allergic to prosthetic like not latex. Yeah, like he's massively like allergic to it. So they had to create new forms of face prosthetics in order to get the look that they wanted because they couldn't just put liquid latex on his face. So.
That is wild. Oh yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it does raise the question of how would you find that out? Because like he was doing stuff like Cuckoo's Nest and a bunch of like off-Broadway stuff. There was probably never a point of like, oh, okay, so in this film, it's about brothers and sisters, about family dynamics. But we're going to put like monster makeup on your face, so hopefully you're not allergic to any of this. Sure, put whatever you want on my face.
Everything was way too grounded in his career up until that point.
Chinatown originally he was meant to have like a monster face, but they couldn't do it. So Roman said, no, let's not.
Let's not do that.
We'll write that out.
Yeah. Robert Towne was really upset about having
if you read the original Robert Towne book, Jake is actually a wolf man, you see.
Jake and the Wolf Man, the original title. So we get all right, we're okay. Shang Sung does the warning. We lay out some more exposition about Princess Katana should be on the throne by now because she's 10,000 years old and she must not be allowed to join with the Earthrealmers. We get more sexy pan flute as Princess Katana guides the light side gang through a maze. And Liu Kang
spits in Liu Kang's eyes.
Spits in Liu Kang's eyes. It's not a fatality, though, because it's not acid, I guess. Unlike the game where when Reptile spits, it's acid. They end up back where they were, except now they're on the... I forgot to mention that the good guys are listening to this entire conversation between Kano and Goro. So they end up back in that room, but now they're on the first floor where the food was. And we get a fight scene, and it's the goons.
A bunch of guards turn up, and a fight scene begins because they play the only song that's in this film, which is the Techno Mortal Kombat theme.
Yeah.
They play that track every single time they have a fight.
Every single time they can.
Does it ever get bad? No. It's always good.
It rocks every time. They win. They beat up on all those dudes, and they're like, yeah, we did it. And then more show up.
But it doesn't matter because then also Rayden turns up.
Rayden turns up, and Rayden is like, I'll kill all of them. It's no bother to me.
So I can just kill all these guys if I want. If I wanted to, I could just kill all these guys. Yeah.
So Rayden's like, all right, let's go. Let's get out of here. I got some fine.
I gotta give you exposition.
I gotta give you more exposition, guys.
And it turned out that the exposition is basically, can't really fight unless you do in Mortal Kombat. So save all your fights when you do that. By the way, you all have character flaws and you all have to get over them. So
Yep.
make sure you do that before the end of the film.
Also, Goro looks intimidating, but the most dangerous guy is Shang Sung. So, they're both Shang Sung and Goro are both former champions for the Outrealm side. So the fights begin.
It's the next day. And our first fight is Sonya versus Kano, because Shang Tsung had told Kano, you can't do anything with Sonya Blade yet because you have to fight her in the tournament.
There's a fight before that.
Okay.
There's Lui Kang against another dude.
Against a capoeira
DJ type guy from Street Fighter. And every time the guy yells, they mix in a lion roar.
I forgot about that.
Anyway, Lui Kang just beats him, and then Shang Tsung steps down
from and says, "Your soul is mine."
Fatality, and sucks the guy's soul up. And then
we get terrible visual effects.
Yeah, terrible visual effect. Then we get Sonya and Kano, and Kano is just supposed to toy with her, right? He's supposed to just embarrass her. He has got a knife. He's like, This is a knife. This is the knife that killed your partner. Really choose the scenery, talking about how he killed her old partner, and then they fight. And then Kano...
She breaks his neck, but he's not dead.
Is he not dead? I thought he died.
Yeah, no, she breaks his neck with her thighs, but he just looks like he goes to he gets knocked out by it. He's not dead because Shang Tsung doesn't say anything.
He said he goes finish him, and then we get the little neck crack, and then.
But then that's it. We don't know if he's dead or not because I'm not sure.
There's no soul. There's no soul sucking.
There's no soul. Yeah.
Yeah. Does Kano show up in the next one? Which is
let us know
one of the worst movies of all.
Rate and review this podcast, and let us know in your review whether he appears in Annihilation.
Whether he appears in Annihilation. Am I going to watch Annihilation again? I watched it in 1997 when it came out. I don't think I need to.
Did you? I was going to say, did you see this in '95?
I did. It was a birthday
I was gonna say,
party.
Were you much of a Mortal Kombat head back in the day?
Yeah.
I guess everybody was, because it was
everybody
was.
It was the thing.
Edge.
Yeah, it was the edgy thing. And be like, oh my god, you get this game, Mortal Kombat, whoa. And then the movie comes out, and we're me and it was a birthday party, I think. Me and a bunch of, it was, I guess, August, so it would have been my friend Eric's birthday that we went to see Mortal Kombat in the theater, because his birthday was at the end of August. Yeah, no, we saw it in the theater. Me and a bunch of other 11-year-olds, getting amped up.
It is the ultimate 11-year-old. If you like Mortal Kombat, it is like the ultimate 11-year-old boy movie.
Honestly, I was the audience. I was the target audience for this movie when it came out.
This is me, whereas I didn't, because I would. I mean, not to age myself massively. I was 4 when this film came out, and then I've just seen it in bits and spits over the years. Mostly the thing that I appreciated watching this film as an adult was, man, this has got a really good techno soundtrack. Not just because I feel like a lot of people just hear the Mortal Kombat theme and they're just like, oh, techno's a joke. Fuck this. But no, there's a lot of really good deep cuts in this film, which we'll get to when we get there. But it is this was, because people always say with the PlayStation now as the console that kind of brought over, dance music and EDM and stuff like that with Wipeout or whatever. No, Sega were kind of on that tip before.
Yeah, especially using it, even if it couldn't be in the games itself necessarily. Yep. It was, they're like, no, we're going to release an album that goes with these with these games. This is the music, that really sells it.
Absolutely.
And this song would get played at sporting events.
I mean, it does get you amped up.
It does get you amped up. It gets you pretty happy. Meanwhile, Johnny
My
Cage
favorite
is out in
scene
the
in
woods.
this film, because it happens so randomly, which is that
He's
all
just out
these
in the woods.
tournaments are happening in like little fight scenes, and then we just cut to Johnny Cage. He's just having a nice walk through a bamboo forest,
And he gets
like
attacked
he
by
looks
Scorpion.
lost. Yeah, he's
attacked
wearing
by
tan
Scorpion.
slacks and a blue shirt, and he just looks like he's lost. And yeah, Scorpion turns up.
And like Johnny ducks and dives. He does the dodgeball D's around some trees because Scorpion throws the "get over here" chain snake, which I believe is Ed Boon is the voice
Ed Boon
of
is the voice of Scorpion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he like dives. The snake gets wrapped up in the trees, and Scorpion pulls it back, and then he throws it again, and Johnny Cage ducks out of the way and splats it against a tree, just like explodes. Yep. And then Scorpion's like, I'm out of here. And he starts to like do a little teleportation thing.
He creates a warp portal. And for some reason, Johnny Cage either gets sucked through it or jumps into it.
He shadow kicks into the warp
Oh, yeah, that's
portal.
right. He does a shadow kick into it. And he ends up in, I assumed it was hell, but it looks like the depraved chasm from fucking Demon Souls. It is all rickety scaffolding and it looks like Blight Town.
Yeah, which it's amazing though, because it's like, oh, okay, well, I feel like Mortal Kombat, at least Mortal Kombat 2 had location changes sometimes.
Yeah.
So now they're in a second location, and we have a pretty cool fight between Johnny Cage and Scorpion on the scaffolding, where they're going back and forth, and eventually the scaffolding collapses,
and they're like kind of it's sort of like when you drop down a level and you were kind of like in all that sort of spot, because this area is like full of like skeletons and like fallen warriors and stuff, and you go, man, this is a really cool scene. I hope it doesn't get ruined by a really bad visual effects.
Yeah, Scorpion's gonna take his mask off and reveal a weird looking
that he has a spooky skeleton
spooky, scary skeleton on his head, and he tries to breathe fire.
He breathes fire like his fatality. Yeah.
And then Johnny finds a shield from an older warrior on the ground, and he blocks the fire. And then he runs up to Scorpion, and because the shield has like spikes on the edge, he just like starts slicing Scorpion up. And like slices his head in half, and it's like it is the goriest thing in the movie, basically.
As he say, they can get away with it because he's like a monster, essentially.
Yeah, he's a monster, so they can get away with this, especially when he sliced half of Scorpion's skull open, it's like there's fire inside, and then Scorpion explodes.
He should.
And it's hinted that Scorpion had a autograph from Johnny Cage on his person.
Yeah. I didn't really get that.
Because when he explodes and the bones go everywhere, like a photo of Johnny Cage.
This is a signed photo of Johnny Cage.
Your biggest fan.
Pretty good.
I
will say I think if you were like a mega fan of Mortal Kombat, because I had this thing of two things, which was one, why is Scorpion and Sub-Zero working for Shang Sung? That's not great. And two, they're just the biggest jobbers in this film.
They're straight up jobbers, and it's like they pay a little lip service earlier to it, where Shang Tsung is like, these two are mortal enemies, but I brainwashed them. Now they work for me. And it's like, okay, I guess that's one way to kind of take some of the complexity of the character dynamics out of it.
And also explain why they're stupid now. So.
They're just stupid. Yeah, they don't even know how their own powers work. Next, Liu Kang is scheduled to fight Katana, so we get some sexy pan flute, and they kind of like wrestle around with each other. And Katana gives him a secret tip. She gives him a secret tip, and he doesn't have to turn the book upside down to read it.
No, or read it in a mirror, like
read it in a mirror.
Like.
He gets a secret tip, and Shang Tsung is so annoyed with them, just kind of
he's so angry. He's like, "Oh, fuck this! I'm stopping the fight.
I'm stopping the fight.
I'm really disappointed.
I'm so annoyed. Just stop fighting, please leave.
Yeah, this sucks."
He stops it right before they start making out. Rayden is inside. So basically, the tip she gives him is like, use the element that gives life.
When you fight your next opponent, use the element of life, basically.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, okay, so what's that going to be? His next tournament it's in the spookiest dungeon you've ever seen.
And meanwhile, Rayden is dressed as like a little...
Yeah, Rayden's dressed as a monk, putting a bucket of water there for some reason.
And Rayden's like, tee, and walks away.
Yeah. And then
like
a bunch of
fucking
monks
gremlin.
bring Lui Kang down where he's known to fight Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero. They fight, and then Sub-Zero starts doing some real ice bullshit. And then Lui Kang looks at Katana, and Katana's off in the corner, and we get a voiceover of her line from the previous scene. Use the element of life.
And he goes, "Oh, I know what to do here." And the only bit of the film that I don't particularly love, but it's like, I mean, they got to get this out, whatever. So it turns out that the tip was to basically use Sub-Zero's abilities against him, which is that Sub-Zero is basically creating a giant like polar vortex around him.
Yeah.
And he notices that some water on the floor is starting to freeze, like the puddle's starting to freeze, and he goes, "Oh, I know what to do here." Picks up the bucket, throws it through the polar vortex, and it turns into a giant icicle that then kills Sub-Zero.
Yeah.
So Sub-Zero basically is killed by his own powers. And
he's killed by his own power. Oh, Sub-Zero. And then he gets frozen to the wall and dies.
Yes. Yeah, he gets frozen solid, and it's just like, man, you were the jobbiest of the jobbers because you got undone by your own abilities. He is
a pro wrestler who doesn't even have his own entrance music when he comes to the ring. You come from commercial break and he's already standing in the ring.
Pretty much, yeah.
So Shang Sung is pissed off because his two of his aces are dead, and Kano is maybe dead or alive. We don't know.
Yeah, sleeping. So he goes to
sleeping.
He's
a sleepy Kano. Now it's Goro's time. And we just get a montage of competitors.
Yeah, I love
dying.
this because it's like they can't move the model, so it's like Goro clean up. So they just cut. It's like a comedy shot. You just see second cuts of just stuntmen being flown off screen and flying. You could make a montage of this where you just loop it for like an hour of just like guys getting like, you hear the punch sound effect and then like that.
It's like verges on like Too Many Cooks level of absurdity.
It does very Bird Up for anyone who's ever seen what's his face, Eric Andre. How this is edited, but. Yeah, you have to just suspend your disbelief that Goro is destroying all of those guys. Granted, you then do see him fight Jax, which I watched this on Amazon Prime, and that character apparently isn't Jax. They give him a different name.
It's not Jax. It's a guy named Art.
Oh, okay.
It's a guy named Art. Something.
Art something. It's Art Spiegelman. It's the guy who drew Mouse.
Exactly.
The creator of Mouse is there, and he's fighting Goro.
And he does not have a good time. What's funny is like they have to make the guy fighting against Goro look nearly incompetent in order for this fight to work, because Goro the Goro puppet is so stiff that it's like, why isn't he just kicking Goro in the legs? Because it's Art Lean is the guy's name. Art Lean is fighting. It's really the only full Goro fight that we get. And then it's not great. He just throws Art Lean around, and then he has the lamest fatality of all time, where he just picks Art up and then goes bop and bops him on the head. And Shang Sung sucks up Art's soul into his eyeball.
And a bad visual effect.
Yeah. So
we get another scene then of Rayden saying you got to get over your character flaws.
Yeah. They all say no. Sonya Blade screams no. Johnny Cage screams no at different times. Rayden shows up and gives another I know authors who use subtext and they're all cowards speech to the group.
Yeah. He says, guys, you really need to get over your character.
You really need to get over these character flaws. I don't know what else to tell you. Lui Kang has a nightmare about his brother's death again while meditating. And Sonya Blade and Johnny Cage are talking about Goro. And Cage is like, I'm just going to challenge him so that Sonya doesn't have to fight him. And Sonya's like, don't do that. And Johnny Cage is like, I'm doing it. And Shang Sung... And he does. He goes to Shang Sung and he's like, yeah, you can fight Goro right now. In exchange, I get to choose, I get to fight the winner, and I get to choose the final fight of the event at a location of my choosing. And Rayden's like, what are you doing?
On his knees.
And Johnny's like, I'm taking charge. And Rayden's like, after Johnny leaves, Rayden's like, at least one of them is finally learning.
Yeah. Finally, he's getting over his big character flaw, but in a way that might jeopardize the entirety of Earth.
It might jeopardize the mission, but he's getting over his character flaw, and that's really all.
To be honest, that's the real mission. That's mission A. Mission B is saving Earthrealm. So
yeah, save Earthrealm. I mean, Raiden's a god. It's not like they're gonna do anything to him.
Absolutely.
The best moment, so they have the Goro Johnny Cage fight set up, and then the best moment of the movie happens when Goro is about to take a swing, and Johnny Cage does a split, which nobody else in the movie has done. Nobody has done a split, and Johnny Cage does a perfect split and punches Goro right in the Jimmy Johns.
Which causes Goro to grab his hurty area and bend over, and everyone to go, "Ooh, that's gotta hurt." Because
that's gotta hurt. And Goro is really going. They really took years off of the puppeteer's life just to give Goro like
that was
a minute of going. Ugh.
Several Henson family members have not recovered from having to.
The Jim Henson puppet shop. There's some graves out back.
There's it's like the unlucky Kennedys. There's unlucky
there's unlucky Hensons.
Who had to animate this guy. But that makes him so angry that Johnny Cage then runs away, and
he just runs away. He runs away and he runs out and he goes out to a cliff and he kind of like hides, and then Goro comes outside and he's like, and then Cage gives him a jump kick and a punch and he knocks Goro right off the cliff.
Yep. Turns out that was the trick to defeating Goro, was finding the world's most precarious cliff face and kicking him off it.
Yeah, because Goro, not well balanced. He's got too much.
No, he's a tall guy.
Tall guy, too much torso.
Yeah, true. Yeah, his center of mass is all fucked because he's got too many arms.
So Shang Sung wastes no time in kidnapping Sonya Blade. Mm-hmm. He knows what's going on. He's like, I'm taking her, I'm fighting her, we're going to the Outworld at the Emperor's Castle, and he fucks off. And then Johnny Cage and Lui Kang are like, we gotta go for her, and they leave Rayden behind.
says, I can't come with you. This is my zone, and they said, that's fine, we don't need your help, we've overcome our character flaws. And he's like,
yes. Yeah. As they go through, we get an early CGI shot of a bad CGI shot of the tower. And what's amazing is that it's this bad shot of the tower, and you know it's bad because there's no ease on the camera movement.
No, it isn't.
It's just like womp.
Yeah.
He was like, you didn't keyframe it, and be like, oh, whatever. It took 5 years to render.
We haven't invented keyframes yet. We're using video toasters. We haven't got that technology yet.
We haven't gotten that technology yet.
We can't do easing yet.
So it's like the camera's just like panning, tilting down the tower, and it just like goes wham.
Yeah.
So they're walking through the desolate wasteland of Outworld,
which basically is just Thailand at night. They just found a bit of Thailand that they could throw some rubble around, and that's
it's like we just need a street clear. We're gonna light some trash cans on fire and go to town. And there's all these like statues of crucified bodies, basically. Reptile attacks them, and Liu Kang throws Reptile into the chest cavity of one of these crucified bodies, which then absorbs Reptile and turns him into the ninja version of Reptile.
Yeah, it turns him into Ninja Reptile from the game. Yeah, I didn't get it. But
I don't get this sequence to be like, I feel like we could have just started. We didn't need him as
I feel like you could have cut 10 minutes out of it. It felt like they had like a mandate of you have to have 7 fight scenes in this film.
Yeah, it was like, we're short one fight scene. We need Reptile.
John Tobias and Ed Boon, which is shouting at him, you have to have a fight with Kano, you have to have a fight with Reptile, you have to do all these characters. And it's, okay, fine. And they forgot to do Reptile, so they just found a place in the film that they could just quickly put a Reptile fight
And
in.
it's like, it's totally disconnected because they end up in another room to do this fight.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of I'm trying to think of a recent film that did this, but it's a lot of like people being kicked through walls and drywall getting blown everywhere.
Yeah. So they end up in this other room, which is basically looks like the set that we just left in Earthrealm.
Yeah,
just with different lighting.
Yeah, purple lighting, basically.
So
this is the realm where all the white ice comes from, by the way. Everything is just covered in a layer of smog.
This is the realm of white ice, yeah. They fight, and he rips the Reptile back out of his chest, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's now just regular Reptile again. And then he kills Reptile, and Katana shows up and says, "Well done, you're finally learning
how to kill Reptile."
Katana then lays out some exposition about how Outworld wasn't always like this. It also lost 10 Mortal Kombats, and Shao Kahn took it over, killed her parents, and adopted her to lay claim to the throne. And then Liu Kang will face 3 challenges in the tower when he gets in there. His enemy, himself, and his worst fear. Honestly, didn't need this because you're like, oh, we're getting to himself. Oh, we skipped it.
He fights. Turns out that those 3 things just end up being one guy, which is he fights Shang Sung.
Yeah, it's a 3-phase boss fight.
So they also do the Star Wars thing of, we need to wear disguises to get in, but it's like literally a second of just they come down in robes. You see Sonya Blade kidnapped, and he's just like, I guess that's the end of the tournament. I guess I won. They're like, not so fast, and they take their hoods off, and no, it's our 3 heroes. And he goes, Shang Tsung goes, I want to fight Johnny Cage, and Liu Kang says, I don't think so. Rules of the tournament says that whoever's on bottom rung or whatever can challenge the head of the tournament, and that's what I want to do. I want to fight you. And it's like,
fine, rules are rules.
If I want to follow the rules, I will then. Fight.
Yeah.
To the Mortal Kombat theme again.
Mortal Kombat theme. They fight. Liu Kang makes Shang bleed his own blood, which Shang is very upset about. Shang then uses some of his souls to channel.
He brings some random warriors back to life who then pop out of the Mortal Kombat logo that they're fighting on.
Yeah. So there's 8 random warriors. Liu Kang takes care of them pretty quickly.
Yeah, their job is that's why they're dead.
Yeah, that's why they're dead. And Katana, meanwhile, is off in the corner. It's like, face your enemy. And she's narrating the challenges, and it's like, face yourself. And facing yourself is Shang Tsung being like, give up. And Liu Kang being like, no.
Yeah. There we go, easy. That's another one done. And then face your greatest fear, which is Shang Tsung turns into his brother, and it's meant to be that thing in a film of is my brother back to life, or is it a trick? But Liu Kang watched this happen, so he's just like, well, I know that you're not my brother, so what the fuck?
What are you doing, Shang Tsung?
This story beat isn't going to work, bud. I've just seen what you've done.
I watched you do it.
Yeah, you don't feel sorry that I died. And it's like, I don't, but you're not my brother. You're fucking Shang Tsung. I know what you're doing here.
Liu Kang just then gets the upper hand and combos Shang into the spike pit. By the way, the spikes grew up out of the ground while they were fighting. While they were chatting. And it releases all the souls in a giant beam of light. And then Liu Kang says, flawless victory.
And Shang Tsung turns into a funny mummy. All of his good looks go away, and he turns
they
into
all
kind of
disappear. And Liu Kang's brother now really shows up. He's dead still, but he's a ghost. And he's like, hey, we'll see each other someday, but I'm always going to be with you. And then he fucks off. I
was going to say, this is the only good, this is the only thing that gets as close to being, a good part of this film is, his brother being, just kind of hey, we'll meet each other in another life, but I will always be with you. While this, orbital track is playing in the back, one of their best songs is playing in the background, then cuts to the Shaolin children running peacefully.
Woo!
And it's just, and it is just kind of wow, the day is saved, that's it. Or is it?
Rayden first goes, what took you so long? And then the Emperor decides to show up. And Shao Kahn is here.
Shao Kahn played by, because we were talking about Scooby-Doo earlier, played by Frank Welker. Yeah, that was, I was watching this on Amazon and it gave me IMDb Extra, and the guy who was in the Shao Kahn costume doing the voice is Frank Welker.
That is amazing. He's come for their souls, and then I forget who says it. One of them says, "I don't think so." Is it Sonya Blade? I think it might have been her. And they all do go into
for it, and they go into fighting poses,
fight stance,
and then the logo appears again, and then the techno music plays over the credits,
and that's the movie.
That's 1995's Mortal Kombat.
That's 1990. It's like boom, 90 minutes, just about 90 minutes. We got a bunch of fight scenes. We get pretty relatively lore accurate to the game. In fact, the games then take a bunch of things from the movie and implement it, including
Mortal Kombat 9 puts a bunch of stuff in from the film, which I think is good. It even looks a lot like it, which I think is nice. They do a lot to just sort of ground these things together. And like I said, we've kind of made fun of it and said how cheap the visual effects look, but it's this is solid. It's not you wouldn't put it on your Letterboxd top 4 or whatever of greatest films ever made.
Yeah.
But for what it is, which is essentially a tournament movie with some horror, kid friendly horror elements in it.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's not bad.
It's the video game version of let's say Karate Kid.
Yeah, or Game of Death or something like that.
Yeah.
It is and it's funny because a lot of the stunt guys on this are all they're all ancient Hong Kong action movie guys. A lot of them have been working with Jackie Chan and whatever. So all of the combat stuff is legit.
Yeah.
In it. And you do get a lot of that. It's just, it also has to do the Mortal Kombat thing of you introduce some characters, you have some supernatural characters where, again, in Sub-Zero and Scorpion's case, they're kind of jobbers, but right. Goro, for the most part, they do pretty well with him. And
the Goro puppet, it
looks good.
It looks good, and it moves better than you. Yeah, it moved better than I remembered it moving.
Yeah, the facial animation is
super stiff,
good, but it is stiff.
For some reason, I was I remember in my head, it was Goro stop motion? No, he was not.
Oh yeah, I think it's one of the maybe Annihilation either does the stop motion Goro, or they have a visual effect Goro that looks kind of stop motiony. But I was thinking that, but I think I might have just been thinking of
he's
Ray
just
Harryhausen Gorgon, because that's kind of what he's based on.
He's a straight up puppet. So that's Mortal Kombat 1995. We're not a blank check. But would you want to play the box office game?
Ooh, yeah. I don't. You'll have to give me a bunch of clues because
I'll give you a bunch of clues. We'll just do top 5 of its release weekend.
So I think I looked this up. So this was number 1 in the box office when it was. Came out.
So obviously you don't have to guess that one. But number 5 that week is Universal Pictures. Widely considered, this is 1995, widely considered a massive flop for its lead. It is Waterworld.
Wow, Kevin Costner's flop on the ocean.
It had been out for It still was in like 2,400 theaters. It had been out for 4 weeks, had made $70 million. But what was Waterworld's budget? But I think the problem, its budget was near 175 million, which was absurd.
Yeah, because it was all, because everything was built on water. It was all super expensive.
So number 4, this is a Warner Brothers movie. It's a comedy romance. I'll give you the tagline or the synopsis. A woman's world is rocked when she discovers her husband is cheating on her.
Oh, who's the lead?
The lead is Julia Roberts. And the other lead is Dennis Quaid.
Oh. Because I was because it's not You Got Mail, because that's a little bit.
No.
It's not Sleepers in Seattle, because that's Tom Hanks. I don't know if I would get this one. I mean.
Yeah, it's a tough. It's a bit of a deep cut. It is Something to Talk About.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
Starring Dennis Quaid and Julia Roberts. Yeah. Next, number 3 is a 20th Century Fox picture. It had been out for 2 weeks thus far. Let's see. Okay, and it is Paul Sutton, a young married soldier, befriends a pregnant lady who is petrified her father will disown her and agrees to pose as her boyfriend. As time passes, they start growing fond of each other.
I've never heard of this film before.
Starring Keanu Reeves.
Oh, and it's a 90s Keanu as well. So it's after Point Break. It's after before The Matrix.
But post Point Break, pre-Matrix.
And he plays a soldier who's pretending to be somebody's husband.
Yeah, and it's kind of a period piece, looks like.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to get this.
A Walk in the Clouds.
This is the year of just films that no one will remember apart from Mortal Kombat and Waterworld.
Yeah, this one you might know, though.
Okay.
Okay, so number 2, it was the number 1 the previous week before Mortal Kombat comes out. It's a Walt Disney picture, but that might be a little bit of a... that might throw you off a little bit. The plot is Luann, a retired U.S. Marine, becomes a teacher in a Californian high school, but her mostly Latino and black students from an impoverished and racially segregated locality do not easily embrace her.
I can't remember the name of the film, but I know Coolio's Gangster's
Paradise is part of the soundtrack.
God, is it called something education or like something like that?
No.
Yeah, because the actress as well is like Kim Basinger or something like that.
It is Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah. Oh. I know the film, but I do not know.
It is Dangerous Minds.
Dangerous Minds.
Yeah. God. The other movies that were in the top 10 that week, number 6 was Babe. These are movies that you probably would have gotten had you heard
Babe,
their...
I would have known.
Babe, The Net, Apollo 13, and also opening that week, The Babysitter's Club. And number 10 was a kid in King Arthur's Court.
Arthur's Court. Wow.
And you know what? There was a lot of movies. I feel like we just had more movies out at any given time.
Yeah, I think
because we also had Virtuosity was out still. God. Clueless, 9 Months. Casper and Pocahontas, that rounds out the top 15.
And it's weird to think of those, because Virtuosity is a film that I always think is like older. I mean, have you ever seen it?
Yeah, it's been a long time, though.
It's been a minute,
it's been a minute, but you know, Denzel Washington plus virtual reality. How can I?
and it's like one of the first American films with Russell Crowe in it, who plays a online computer virus serial killer who then manages to make his way into the real world, and Denzel Washington has to stop him. Wow, what a plot.
What a plot. At the bottom of the list was, after 13 weeks, number 23 was Braveheart.
Wow. Take that,
in its 13th week, coming in at number 23. We'll do one more thing before we end this episode. James, what are you playing?
Oh, what have I been playing? Quite a few things at the moment. I guess I will pull out two, which is... one of them is a demo for a game that might be out by the time this episode is out, called Uncle Chop's Rocket Shop, which is it's described by the developers as being a roguelite spaceship repair simulator. But basically, it's cool. It's like a little side-scrolling adventure game for the most part, where you play as a fox-headed alien who lives on a kind of a backwards planet. But to make money and basically to pay rent and stuff, you have to fix... Like, people bring their spaceships over like it's a repair kind of bay. And it's
Sure.
like, oh, something's fucked up, have a look at it. And all of the components are like kind of WarioWare minigames. So, like, to do an oil change, you have to pull out the bonnet, you have to clean out the oil and replace it, you have to, like, check for fractures or, like, replace pieces and stuff like that. And on the hardest mode, you do it against the clock as well. So it's kind of got this nice thing of you have to do the correct checks and all that sort of stuff while also doing it in time to make enough money. And yeah, it's just a cool little game. I really like kind of touchscreen interfacey stuff, and I quite like how they've made it work here of, you know, you have tools, like you have a wrench that you have to, like, you know, pull up and down, lefty, righty, that, all that sort of stuff.
Sure.
And it's neat. They give you a book so you can diagnose stuff, but for the most part, it's one of those things that the more you play it and the more components you recognize, the better you get at it. And it's got that kind of, like, nice roguelike thing of... you just kind of learn through experience. So that's been really good. And the other game that I've been enjoying as well is another demo, and that's called Parking Garage Rally Circuit. And I don't know if you've seen any footage of this. I got into it because the developer of it, who made a game years ago called Jelly Car, which was like one of those physics-based kind of trials games where you play as a car made out of jelly, and it's like you have to get to the end, but it's all wobbly physics stuff. He's done a similar kind of physics-driven game here, but it's based on like Sega-style, Sega Rally, Daytona USA stuff.
Right.
And its unique selling point is it's races that happen in parking garages. So it's all about really tight turns and like hitting boosts and stuff. And it's like really fun. It looks like the aesthetic is spot on. Like you can change it between if you want to make it look like a Saturn game with like wobbly polygons and stern lines, or if you want to make it look super sharp and high res or whatever. It's really cool. I think the full version of that should be out maybe sometime this year, but there's no announcement date for that. But yeah, it's been a riches of plenty in the indie space at the moment for me.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's me. What about you, though?
Right now, I'm currently playing Tactical Breach Wizards, which...
Ooh, how is it?
It's a lot of fun. It is because it kind of takes that almost like a natural progression of the tactics game to a point where it's like, okay, well, it's basically a puzzle to be solved for the most part, because you have these wizards that you control, and one of them allows you. One of the wizards' power is he has the ability of like foresight, so you can like plan out a turn, and then you can use his foresight to see how the turn will play out. And then you can kind of like rewind and just keep doing it until it gets to a point where you really like it. But then after you end your turn, you can't go back. Let's say you can't go back to another turn, but you can play around within a turn until you get it to the point where you really like it. It's a lot of fun. It's a cute game. It's got a fun little story. I know you had mentioned you were not a huge fan of the snarkiness of the writing, but I've had some laugh out loud moments.
It's a cool world. Like I like the fact that because it's developed by the guy who did Golden Point and Heat's Signature, but like I like the fact that it is very kind of blunt in regards to its magic basically stapled onto kind of like UK police procedural stuff. So it's like, oh, we've got contraband manor, and like, you know, all of the wizards are wearing like kind of yellow high-vis police jackets and stuff like that, but still wearing like wizards hats.
There's a wizard who is just like the traffic cop wizard. Who casts a ghost car. And one of the main stats they count for you over the course of playing the game is defenestrations, because if you can defenestrate somebody or throw them out of a window, you don't have to like whittle that down their health. Basically. It's an instant kill. And one of the wizards that you get somewhat early in the game, there's a third wizard. So far it seems like you only ever have control of 2 in a mission, and it rotates between like a couple of them. The third wizard you get has something called Death's Door, which allows her to open a window basically anywhere on a wall. So you can kind of so even if you're in a room where there's no windows, you can still get a defenestration. That's great. And according to that wizard, after an hour, it doesn't kill them. They just appear in the woods after an hour with an interest in becoming a finance bro. She doesn't know where it sends them, but that's what happens. James, thank you so much for being on the episode today. Do you have any pluggables? Anything you want to plug?
Sure. So you may have heard me through Kevin occasionally appearing on my podcast, Bullet Sign.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it may have been related to why you asked me to talk about a film, but we've been prototyping a couple of different like mini-series and kind of spin-offs of Bullet Time on the channel, and one of them was called we did a mini-series on the 3 Transformers films that Michael Bay did in a series called Movies We Like. So I guess to promote something, if you want to hear me talk more about films, not as tight as this though, but maybe a little bit too detailed, a little bit goes off the deep end in some stuff about the 3 Transformers films. Do check that out. It is on, you can find it on YouTube under Bullet Time Podcast. You can also find it as part of the Bullet Time Podcast on any podcast app of your choice. But other than that, you can always see I'm over on X, formerly known as Twitter, at HotCyder, HotCyder.
So yeah, go ahead, check that out. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our Patreon $10 tier subscribers, Ruthless Mutter, Friendly Friend, Jesus Loves You, and Kyle Seaman. Thank you so much for being our $10 tier subscribers. If you want to go ahead and go over to patreon.com/pixelitpod, you can join for free or you can join for $1. Get access to Phil's blog where he talks about the books that he is reading, or $5 and you get access to our pre-show bonus episodes and the ad-free episodes. So go ahead, check that out. Otherwise, Pixelit is on X/Twitter, Twixter. You can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on Blue Sky. Pretty much anywhere you think we should be, just go ahead and put @PixelitPod in the search bar, and we'll probably show up. So thank you so much for listening, everybody, and have a good evening.